Okay, we're recording now. That's great. Uh, so, welcome
Sorry.
to Both Sides of the Mic. This is March 24th, 2024. There must be some special thing about those numbers. That's March 24th, 2024. Yeah. Yeah, well, my age, 20.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, right. Anyhow, this
Oh
week
no.
we got Jerry Justin in the hot seat. And I'm going to ask Jerry, um, our famous first question is always a mystery, and it's always the most important one of the show. Okay. Jerry, do you remember your first kiss other than family and animals?
Probably not. No.
No, I mean, a lot of people say they kiss their dog. Well, whoopee doo, I don't, you know, we, we don't care about that. Um, so you don't remember the first flame, huh? Oh my gosh. Speak.
No, there was so many.
Oh, that sounds like a story you're going to stick with. That's okay. Um, yeah, I guess your wife's in another room.
Yes, she is.
Yeah. Oh, Lordy. So, where are you at right now, Jerry?
Sitting in my office in um, Canada, in Alberta. We live at Glenifer Resort in Canada, in Alberta.
Whereabouts in relationship to uh, Calgary?
We're about halfway between Edmonton and Calgary, outside of Red Deer.
Oh, outside of Red Deer. You're not too far from me then. We could have done away with all this problem with your phone. We could have just opened the window and shouted back and forth.
Do you live in Red Deer?
No, I live in Cochrane.
Oh yeah.
Yep, I moved out here about 3 years ago. Uh, I'm trying to get away from that Ontario crowd, you know.
Hmm.
Um, it took like a half dozen callers to fill my shoes, of course.
Yep, I'll bet.
Dave, uh, Dave here is, of course, he's razzing me about that. Anyhow, uh, in the winter, where do you spend your time,
Well,
or
we
did?
used to, we did. We were worked in Yuma for 35 years, Yuma, Arizona, and in the middle of that, had a house in Texas, and I was going to school there, finishing up my degree, and traveling in Europe a lot.
Hmm.
And when I retired from calling on the 30th of December in 19.
Oh wow, just at the right time.
It was it was uh, it was fortunate. We went on an all-inclusive down to Mexico in January, and then I loaded up all my 45s, and I had almost 10,000 of them, and I drove them down to Vic Cedar,
Oh, you
and
did.
I called him, and I knew he's collecting records because I'd been there, and I said, the only thing is, you have to take them all.
Been there, done that.
And so I dropped them off. We came back and loaded up the motor home, and we were going to go travel. And there was a storm that weekend. And by the end of the weekend, they closed the border.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fortunate part of it was usually that time of year I would be traveling and I would have probably ten or $20,000 worth of airfare bought, and I didn't because I was retiring.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So I was pretty lucky that way. So we stayed around. We had built our house a couple of years before that, so we stayed around here for a couple of years before we got to start traveling again.
Oh yeah. Well, originally, where were you from in Alberta?
Outside of Red Deer, Delburn.
Same, same. Okay.
Yep.
So is any of that left?
My sister and her family live on the homestead, and the rest of the land is being farmed by my cousin.
Oh yeah. Well, that's part of the interesting thing about my particular interviews is we try to get a look at what callers are doing from both sides of the mic. A lot of dancers have the idea that we're stuck in a little box and we just appear each week, get out of the box, call, get back in the box, and wait till they return.
Hmm.
Uh, so my idea is to say, hey, these people are they're actually real people. They some of them even have kids and go to McDonald's and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be tossing back and forth from each side of the mic. You never know which side because I don't know. It's like my calling. I don't know what I'm going to call until it falls out of my mouth. Should be a name for that, defensive calling or something. You called it now fix it.
Hmm.
So 34, yeah, 34 years in Yuma. I think the longest I called for a club was 30 years. It never got old with that particular club. That was Triangle Squares in Toronto. Some other clubs, of course, I'd been with for quite a few years, but not that long. So how how did that work? Did you?
Well, I started calling in Alberta, and my dad would drive me and my sister to different dances. We danced a lot. So that was back in '67 when I called my first dance.
Hmm.
And as things got better, we did Penticton and some other places. I started to cross the border into Washington and Montana. And uh, it was getting harder and harder to cross the border and call because I was doing it more as a job then. And so I was hired by a club that owned their own hall in Tri-Cities, Washington. And I moved down there, and they set me up with a RV and a vehicle, and tried to work on getting me a visa. And so I was there for 3 or 4 months, and finally the United States, in all their wisdom, said that if I'd have been born any other continent, they probably could have given me a work visa, but they couldn't. So I had to leave again.
Oh,
So I went back to Canada, and I was still, traveling in the Pacific Northwest quite a bit and calling in Alberta and BC and Saskatchewan. And so then I decided I went down, got a hold of Wade Driver down in Texas. And the reason I got a hold of him was because there was a round dance couple that we had known through Banff Institute. And they always said, if you're going to come down to Texas, let us help you out. So I went down to Texas to look at the university, see if I could transfer from up here. And I met Wade, and we were able to transfer. And so I went into the United States on a student visa. And I was able to call around. Pretty soon I had clubs in Texas and going to school. And I met my wife. And then we got a chance to, of course, the big thing was to try to get into the RV parks in Arizona, because that was what everybody was doing to try to make a living. And I knew most of the people who were doing that. So I had put my name in a few places that were being built in Phoenix and Mesa. And all of a sudden I was calling over in Boston. I got a call from somebody in Arizona. And they said they were the managers for Dale Cassidy's park in Mesa area. And they just transferred to a new park that was being built in Yuma. And so they wanted to put a caller in there, and they asked if I'd be interested. And I said yes. So I flew out to Yuma, and the park that they were building was an old orange grove, and they had nothing else was being built, had been built yet. So I talked to my wife, and they wanted to have clogging also. And my wife was a clogger in Texas, and she was a school teacher. So I said, yeah, she could teach. And so we took the job and sold our house in Fort Worth area and bought a 40-foot fifth wheel and packed up and headed out to Arizona. And that was the beginning.
Wow. So how many sessions a week would you be calling out there?
When we got there, the park was behind. So we ended
Mhm.
up working for the park. Janice was the activity director, and I was a manager for probably 6 months. And the hall wasn't ready until after Christmas that year. We were there in the fall. And so finally, when we got things going, I was managing the park, and between tips, I'd have 18 people lined up asking me questions about what they had to do.
Yeah.
So Janice got to know the people. When we first went there in the fall, we went and round danced with the people, went to the other callers that were local, and danced just to get to know people. But she helped me understand that. And then so at the end of the season, we went on a cruise, took some square dancers with us. And when we came back, they had hired a different manager. So now, and the hall was done. So we were then able to start setting up our program.
Hmm.
So when we got going, we ran, another park was being built in Yuma by a Canadian out of BC. And they were advertising they were going to have square dancing. And so at that point, the owner of our park knew that I couldn't call as many sessions as I needed to make a living and them use it their park too. So he went and talked to the other owner, and we ended up with a contract with them too, so that we could work 2 days a week there and 2 days a week at the original park.
Hmm. That's good.
So that's when we started to put the program together. Uh, and we were promoting the park because it was a sales park that we had first got into. So we were in the summer when we were doing our festivals and that and traveling, we would hand out free 3-day passes to anybody who comes. So we had a lot of people come in to do that. And that's how we started to build getting people into the area and knowing that we had a square dance program.
Very good. Very good.
We were lucky. We thought we weren't lucky because we didn't go into Mesa. We didn't get into that area where there was a lot more people. But when there's more people, there's more problems too.
Oh
And
yeah.
so as we built it up on our own, it was better because we were able to control everything we were doing.
No, that's good. Yeah, it's kind of like what happened. I went down to Texas before I went to Florida full time, and at that time, Daryl, whatever, Daryl Lipscomb was calling.
Uh-huh.
Joe Sawtell, Randy Doherty, Bronk Wise. Um, I think they were the major callers at that time. Jerry Story had left. Um, Anyhow, we were in Mission and for a month, and we went dancing different places. There was nothing going on at Mission, which is where I think Daryl Lipscomb had started. He took over from I think it was Jerry Haig. But anyhow, um, turned out my wife wanted to do some workshopping with Plus Level, and Joe Sawtell was having some going on at Tropic Star, which is like you had. It was a park built in an orange grove, but they had these specials where you book a month to stay there, and you would get another week. Well, we wanted to do I think 2 or 3 months, so we said, can we get a week for each one of those and all? And they said, oh sure. So we were hooked. Um, and when Daryl left there, uh, I did get a phone call asking me if I'd come down and do the C1, but I was already hooked into um, the Florida gig, and I couldn't turn that down. So, uh, but if I were going back, I think traveling again like that, Texas would be a great place to go. I mean, the numbers are down, yes. You must have seen that through the 20s as things started winding down. How many people would you normally get, Jerry, at a dance during the height of the season?
Oh, as we built it up, we would probably max out at about 40 squares for a plus dance,
Yeah.
and we as we built it up, we did the whole program, beginners, mainstream, plus, and then we did A1, we did A2, and we did the last few years. I had a C1 group also, and so by the time you do a workshop and a teach, that's 2 sessions on each of those per week.
Mhm.
And I was still traveling on the weekends. We couldn't get our halls very easily in Yuma on the weekends. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I
Oh
kept
yeah.
booking on the road. So I traveled every weekend somewhere.
Oh yeah.
And Janice had her program. Her program was built up pretty good. She was teaching clogging at 5 parks in the area,
Holy
and
smokes.
and running weekends, and she got to the point where she knew a lot of the instructors. She was doing workshops in the summer, so she had a good following too. So it was luckily, and it was a good thing because we both understood the problems about teaching and all the time with people and relating to people. So we were able to make a living and do that and then travel all summer.
Oh yeah.
We
Great.
had I had gone over to Texas and I'd applied at a couple parks there when they were having their big upset just before you went there. And Jerry and Sherry Haig, when we first moved in, we had talked to them and they had spent a lot of time with us telling us what we could expect in working in that kind of stuff. So they were really helpful with that. And Johnny and Marge LeClaire were also in there at that time. And I had traveled a bit with Burl, Maine, and he was down in that area. So it was, I travel with him. I'd pick him up and go to his weekend and watch how he did. And he was a good influence on me. And then after that, it was Wade because he didn't know me from Adam until I went in there.
Yeah, it's certainly a different lifestyle. When did you ever have time to work on your singing calls and whatnot?
Well, I knew what I was doing. I didn't really work on them other than the words to the song. I took each singing call and I go back to the original song and I seen how it was done and I tried to make it like a singer. I would try to do the song like the original, and I would always tell the people who had done the original and talk about the music and that. And that was about the time we were starting to get Facebook too, and so people were on Facebook, and so I said, tell you what, and started announcing it at all the dances wherever I called. I said, I'll be your friend, but you got to put a picture of yourself, not your dog, not your food, on your Facebook page, and you got to say something about square dancing. Otherwise, I won't take you. And so pretty soon, I had a lot of people follow me on that. It was good because then I could advertise the weekends I was going to do, and it was a blessing. And then later I got a chance to go over to Europe, and Europe was like a bloom as things were slowing down here. It was a boom for me, and I was in a position where I could go over and stay for 2 or 3 weeks because I had a lot of friends over there. So I'd stay, and so I didn't have to get paid all the airfare 3 times.
Yeah.
I would split it up and be able to do it. And then we started going to Australia and Japan, and so over the years, I've put over 4 million air miles on
Oh, gee.
traveling, the last few years, that was where I was able to keep making a living. You know, as things were slowing down in our other programs, as everybody has seen. So I was lucky, but we worked hard at it to do it.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what happens when you're addicted. You don't realize how much time you are spending doing something that you really enjoy. What was your what were you studying at school?
When I transferred down, I had been in physical education um, in Canada, and when I went down there, that's what I went into at Texas A&M University. And it was a funny experience because I when they got to the square dance part of the program in the there, the teacher found out that I called square dancing. And so she let me teach the square dancing the way it was modern instead of some of the old stuff that they had. And they had a square dance club in the university. And when I first went to Texas A&M, and it's a big university, it's got 60,000 students. I had to go to foreign student orientation, and I met the director of admissions, and we got talking, and I told him I was a square dance caller, and he says, "Well, I'm the president of the local club," and
Oh, gee.
he said, "We've just lost our caller." And so right away I got into that and started teaching rounds, and we taught rounds because being from Canada, we did that up here. You know, callers know how to cue.
Mhm.
And so and the original couple I went down there with was very high in the round dance world too. So we got the local club, and we taught beginners and such. And that's when it was getting hard at the university to have anybody. But so I started calling there, and I started getting some clubs in Fort Worth area and traveling around Texas and the South. And finally, I got to the point where I had to make a decision, and we moved to Fort Worth, built a house, and transferred to Texas University of Texas at Arlington. And I was still going to school. My wife was teaching, and so we went there, and that's where we were when we got the chance to go to Arizona. So we sold our house, bought a fifth wheel, and
Wow.
decided we were going to try that.
Yep. So did you finally graduate, or are you still going?
Would you believe when we took the job in Arizona, I quit school, and so I had all kinds of hours, and I always said I was going to go back and finish it. So in 2005, I was traveling, and I could work some time out. I registered back at Texas A&M, and I took one semester a year for 5 years, and I graduated in 2010.
Oh my
And while I
gosh.
was doing that, I flew back and forth. We bought a house over there in College Station, and we flew back and forth. I flew back and forth. I did all my classes on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I flew back and did my programs, moved my programs around so that I could work on the weekends or some of the weekends that I had booked. So I didn't stop calling at all, but I did do the university at the same time. And it was an experience to go back that 20 years later
Yeah.
and to work with the kids. They sort of looked at me funny, you know, being an older student. But once, you know, we had to do a lot of things together, working on programs to show and how you would teach somebody to do stuff. Well, that was right in my all in my ballpark. And so, first of all, nobody wanted to be my partner. But after they saw what I could do,
Mhm.
everybody wanted to be my partner because I had different ideas than what they had.
Oh yeah.
So, so that was great because I had always said I was going to graduate. So I got my ring and I did graduate. Not that I knew I was ever going to use it.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question. What are you doing with it?
Not that, not, well, not I can say nothing, but anytime you're learning things, it's a life learn, and the experiences in Europe and being around people who didn't speak English as a first language was very you worked at it, you worked at understanding people. When I graduated with a major in teaching English as a second language,
Oh,
and it was I'm looking at my degree here. What does it say I did? Bachelor of Science is what I got. A degree in teaching and English as a second language.
hmm, very good.
So so I was using that a lot because I was traveling into different countries and had a good following over there too.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all part of the lifestyle, networking. Uh, like you say, you were in the right place at the right time in many of these situations. And the thing is um, I know there's a saying about uh, luck. Luck is when experience meets your skill level or something. I can't remember what it was, but you know, if you hadn't been outgoing enough to travel to these places, to talk to people, mix and mingle, um, you these opportunities would not have come along for you, I'm sure. But just just being in the right place at the right time really helps.
Yep.
Uh,
And it was a great thing, like the early people are creatures of habit. You learn that when you watch them. And the we had so many people dancing with us in the early days that it was hard to know everybody. But people, and they all wore square dance clothes then, so it was a little bit easier. And they uh, they all would come into the hall. They go to the same place every time.
yep.
So we started. Janice and I would go home at night and we'd talk about the people in the fancy black outfits,
Yeah.
and then and she had to sign everybody in, so she got to know them a little bit. So we would get their first names, and then I could start to call them by name as we got to know them. And the first few years, I think that they didn't think that we would go to parties or anything with them because we weren't invited very much. But as we got to know people, we did get invited out, and that was a help to get to know people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's interesting when you, especially teaching a class, and the new dancers come in. And I remember one club I had where we taught in a gym, so the seating was bleachers, and they would pick their spot, right?
Yep.
And at the end of the tip, didn't matter where they were, that was where they went back to. The next
Yep.
week they'd come to the dance or class, they would get their spot. But it was always interesting that about halfway through lessons or dances, some of these people started moving around, and you could see them growing socially. And I thought this has nothing to do with square dancing, other than it's the what would you say? It's the device to get these people to grow socially. And some of them actually became, your club officers, which is fantastic. So you know, square dancing has so many elements, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Did you have many people do any pranks on you?
Yes, there was always the pranks, wrapped up in the toilet paper and Oh, the one that I sort of put my foot down was when they wanted to have me take my shirt off, change
Yeah.
shirts. I wouldn't do it. And they knew that I wouldn't do it because I stated I wouldn't do it.
Hmm.
You know, you gotta give and take a little bit. If I couldn't take it, then I couldn't expect dancers to take it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Had you had any embarrassing moments on the mic?
Oh, I think that all of us have at one time or another. Uh, I guess that when we were doing rounds, we had the wireless mics, and I went to the bathroom with mine all the time. That was a little embarrassing. My wife comes screaming into the bathroom.
Turn it off. But I
Oh,
can't.
yeah, yeah.
Once you get
So
started, you can't stop. No.
yeah, and I know that I had not got them back to their partner one time, and I did it. I did it again, and nobody was back there, and without thinking, I said shit
Yeah.
over the mic. They were going. "Ah." At that time, only Marshall Flippo could swear on the mics.
Oh, yeah. Jeez. Oh, yep. Yeah, like you say, I think we've all been there, done that. Different
Yeah,
things. And the thing is, uh, as I tell new callers, don't think anything that you wouldn't want to have people hear, because if you think it, it's going to pop out sometime when you least expect it. I had a friend in Massachusetts was calling, and he was always afraid he was going to do, because he would do face your partner, do do, face your corner, do do, face your partner, do. He'd do it back and forth. He was always afraid he was going to say face your partner, do do, face your corner, do do, face your partner, do do. And one night, and I was there, and he did. And of course, he was the kind of guy who would get red in the neck, and it just went right up, and he got so red faced it was like sunburn. But you don't want to say pace your partner, which I now the callers in this group at some point that's gonna pop out, unfortunately, because you
yeah.
heard it, you heard it, you know.
Then the other thing that happened when I was traveling all over is I became a collar coach and I was in a lot of collar schools, not only in North America but in Europe also. And those I learned a lot over there because I did one in Germany where I had to have a translator with me the whole week
Hmm.
because there was enough people that didn't that English was not very good, and so that was an experience learning to listen to what they had to say through an interpreter, and then having to say it back to the interpreter, and they would pass it on. So it was a good learning situation. And before that time too, we were doing a lot of trips. I had my travel agent license for a while,
Oh,
and we took a lot of square dance cruises and trips, and had people with us. We'd get our way paid. We worked for what's the cruise line that goes to Alaska? Holland America. We worked for them. We got hired by them one time to do the square dancing on the ship.
oh,
And they even set up with a club in Skagway, and we did a dance there as a stop when they stopped there. And we just did it once, and we didn't have to bring any square dance. That time we got paid for being there, so that was a
hmm.
good deal. And then when I got to Europe, we started doing some weeks, and in like with Hannah and Lars, we did some stuff in Poland, and it was usually Swedish and Danish dancers that would come to that, and we do a whole week there, and then Hannah would put together a trip that we go with the dancers too. So we
Mhm.
toured Poland a lot that time, and then uh, Vienna was another good place to go to. Got to know a lot of people. I stayed with people, and all over the world.
Yeah, uh, I think Hannah, you're trying to get something started in Poland, aren't you? She's You're muted.
But she's had stuff going there for the Scandinavian dancers for quite a few years, and we got working with her on that. It's where there's a week of dancing, and then she does a tour after that. Of course, Hannah is from Poland originally,
Mm-hmm.
so that was nice because she speaks.
So can't. That's odd. We can't hear you, Hannah. She's she's talking, but we don't have any volume.
Go down to the. Or if you're on your phone, go to the bottom and hit that. There's a bunch of stuff come up, and then you can.
She's blaming Lars. They're on a computer. I'll be darned. That's unusual.
Okay.
We'll come back
Okay,
to that.
I'm not. Can you hear me now?
I can. Yep.
Okay, I hit the mute button.
Oh, don't do that.
Nowhere near now. Nowhere.
Okay. Well, we'll get back to Hannah a little later when we engage the audience and they chime in. Bunch of questions here. Do you have any hidden talents that people don't know about?
Oh,
No.
I played golf everywhere in the world. I'm not a good golfer, but I play a lot of golf. This 2 years ago, I took up pickleball and I play pickleball different places.
Oh yeah.
When I was young, I played the piano. I took classical piano, and I took the exams in high schools for grade 11 to grade 12. So I did have that. Unfortunately, I didn't play by ear.
Mhm.
I had to have music to play. And that was a learning experience. If you could give me, when I was doing harmony, learning how to do harmony as we did more stuff together, the callers, if I could see the notes, I could sing the harmony. And I had to work really hard to do harmony by ear. Yeah, in other words, that was a learning thing, and it took a while. But as we were doing a lot of stuff together, the last few years, when we would have 2 and 3 callers together, and we wanted it to sound good, not to be a cluster of voices that wasn't very good. I mean, the idea was to entertain the people with good stuff. Hey, Hannah and Lars.
Hi.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great.
Okay.
Good to see you, Jerry. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. We're gonna drop in on you guys one of these days.
We're
Okay.
waiting for it.
So going back to the other side of the mic there, Jerry, what's your favorite childhood memory? Can you think of a favorite one?
A favorite childhood memory. Well,
Yeah.
I was in sports. I played baseball and hockey, and I was in a farm area. So as you got better, you had to travel farther because you had to be on an all-star team, and practices were a long ways away. For quite a few years, I refereed high school basketball and men's league basketball, and did very well with that. I was an all-night DJ for a while at a country station here in Red Deer. My name was Jerry J.
Oh yeah.
From midnight until 6 in the morning.
Oh gee.
And that was on the weekends, so because they didn't want to, they couldn't hire somebody. So I had done a square dance program on the channels, knew how to operate the equipment, and that's when I did that for a while.
Wow. Um, yeah. Let's move on to the, oh, well, let's go back a little bit. When you first started calling, um, how did you figure out how to call? Did someone help you? Did you read about it or?
The people who taught lessons here, both him and her, and it was Frank and Dorothy Dorwood, were in Stettler, and that's where we were able to go. My sister and I to go learn to dance, and he knew that I sang. And in the country, you do these kind of talent shows, and so he gave me a record, and I learned the record right away. I can even tell you which one it was. It was K-Lock's "Love Me Honey Do." It
Oh
was the
yeah.
first that I learned.
Yep.
And so then I learned a bit more, and we were dancing to other callers in the area. And then I started to have them tell me how I could do this, how I could do pattern. And I went to caller schools that were put on by Central Alberta and that, and started listening. And I traveled with a lot of the guys when I could as I got older. And so I worked hard on understanding the systems. But I probably to start with, it was memory. Write it down and memorize at the very beginning, and knowing that you could, in the old days, you could do the figure sometime in the patter, and then when it come to the patter, if there was any little tricks, they could get through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I sang all right, so that was a good thing.
Yeah. So what do you do in your downtime?
What do I do in my downtime, as in now? Or I didn't have any downtime before.
No, no. That's
Right
true.
now, we started when this pandemic sort of was over, or was slowing down. We started traveling. We went back and did our trip that we were going to do when the border closed. It was 2 years after that we did that. We drove down over to Winnipeg and went south through the Dakotas. I have cousins there, and then we went on down to Missouri, and some of the other callers that I'd worked with over the years. We stopped there, and Janice had relatives in Oklahoma, so we went there, and then we went on to Texas and spent 2 months with her brother last summer, and then we went on back to Yuma and spent a month in Yuma, and that was really the first time I'd been back since I had quit.
Wow.
And then we came home, and we've been traveling ever since. And we've done 3 cruises, I guess, in the last year. And we just got back from playing golf in Spain with our German caller friends. We went to Mallorca. We just got back from that one. This fall, we're doing a 30-day cruise over in the Mediterranean. And then we're going to, in the next year, we're going to go down where the pyramids are, down the Nile, doing a cruise on. So we had a bucket list set up, and we're trying to take care of that bucket list while we're both healthy and while we can travel. But we went to Ireland, did a cruise around Ireland, and went over to England after that. We've called a lot in Ireland and England. While we were on that trip, we did take a trip back to Sweden. I didn't get to go to Hannah's. She was in the United States at the time. So we were at my other friend's place, 2 places there, and had a great week reminiscing and remembering stuff. And one of the guys that I stayed with all the time, one of my best friends over there, is a caller. So I knew most of the callers in Sweden.
Oh my.
And in Denmark too, because I called a lot there.
So,
I probably didn't answer your question.
I don't even remember what the question was. Yes, I do.
But downtime.
Downtime, yes. What do you do in your downtime? Like hobbies?
I play golf and pickleball now. That's
Yeah.
basically. And I walk a lot. I was getting back in shape a year ago, over a year ago, and I started walking, and I walked probably 8 kilometers a day,
Hmm.
and I got back in shape, lost some weight, my health got better, and so we try to do exercises. We do stretching uh, every morning wherever we are. And we got a little weight thing that we carry with us in our RV.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of friends up here have RVs, so we go out into the country and go to these small places that have a 9-hole course, and so we stay with friends for 3 or 4 days, and we bought a membership to a park system, and we had really not done much in Vancouver Island, so we went over there and we were able to book our stay at 2 parks. We were there for 9 weeks, and met people who knew me, square dance callers and square dancers all over. They knew me from years ago. And then so that was a good trip. So what I tell my wife is we're making memories.
Ah, very good. I'm going to let Mike ask his question later. He's got a question for you. Anyhow, we're going to move on to a portion here where it's have you ever, okay? And so have you ever ridden a motorcycle?
Yes, I own 5.
You did? Ah.
Yep.
What kind did you have?
I started out with a 50 Sport, and then I had a 175 XL Honda, and then I had a 350 Honda. I guess I had 3.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Good. Ever ride in a sidecar?
Never ridden in a sidecar.
Okay.
Probably couldn't. I wouldn't trust the driver.
Yeah, right. Well, it's a different feeling, that's for sure. I'd rather drive the rig. Ever jump out of a plane?
No, that was on my list. One of my best friends was a paratrooper, and that was on my list, and it just never got to that point. The first thing I did when I got out of high school was I went into flight training, and I got my private pilot in Canada. And then when I moved to Texas A&M, they had a flying club there, and I got my U.S. license. The problem was school was expensive, and flying is really expensive.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was a good thing. That was what I wanted to try that, and it was a good experience. I think that if I was on a plane, I know enough about the controls and that with somebody on a phone, or on the mic, they could talk me into land in a plane. I could land.
Yeah. Yeah. I got my private pilot's license, and I have a brother-in-law who's a pilot. I guess he's retired now. Was a pilot for Canadian, and he every so often would take us into the simulator, and you actually get to fly the plane. And so I found out, yeah, I can take off and land the big ones. Ever fly in a hot air balloon?
No.
Okay, that's something you ought to put on your bucket list. That's a great sensation. Water sports. Did you ever scuba dive?
Nope. I'm not a water person, really. I did water ski, but I'm not a water person.
Okay, so you probably never sailed a sailboat.
Nope. One of my young callers that I worked with in Texas, he just retired, and they've been on there. They have a sailboat, and they sailed around from Galveston all the way around to the other side of Florida just recently.
Oh yeah. Yep. Ever work in a factory?
Nope.
Okay. Ever pulled taffy?
Nope.
I don't know if you're missing anything there. I think eating taffy is the better part. Have you been in the armed forces?
No, and that's an interesting question because when I was trying to get into the States, I tried to enlist. They weren't taking foreigners at that time. I was willing to enlist to get down there
Oh,
because
wow.
I couldn't make a living up here on what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Ever ever ride a horse?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the places that's close to here, we were raised there, and it was a dude ranch, and they had a lot of horses, and they did square dance weekends there. It was in Alberta here, and it was so I learned to ride horses too.
Yeah. Um, you've already established that you played an instrument, piano. Um, have you done karaoke?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I've done it in many countries, and the experience was in Japan because you do karaoke in Japan. They take you into, you get a room with this big TV, and it has multiple mics, and we spent a good part of an afternoon there with with some Japanese callers, and that was an experience. And other than that, we've done used to go to do karaoke after some of the weekends in Europe.
Oh, yeah. Of course, you've driven a tractor living on a farm.
Oh yeah, driven all the equipment. I drove a big truck for a while too.
Well, that was going to be another question. You drive an 18-wheeler, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um, okay, that takes care of my questions on did you ever, if you were writing your autobiography, what would the title be?
What would the title be? I don't know. I hadn't thought of that, of a title.
Well, we won't hold you to it, but if, if you kind of
The
guess one.
the life and times of Jerry Jestin.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. It works.
It's funny because I worked with Buddy Weaver. He does a podcast and he does interviews like this too. And I'm going to be doing one for him. And he said, I need to have your stuff updated. He says, it doesn't end. I said, okay. So I had pulled mine out to redo it anyway.
Well, there you go. That's a good autobiography title, possibly. Um, Jerry Jestin, up until now. Uh, I like the one that if you put what 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 would you have put on your tombstone if you were going to have a tombstone? Have you thought of an obituary type title on the tombstone?
Well, matter of fact, we have. We're in the process of preparing things ahead, and we are in the process of ordering our heads. But it's going to be very simple. It's going to be just our names and our date of birth, and of course when we pass away. And we've already purchased a place, and it's in a little community outside of where I was raised. My great grandparents, my grandparents, and my parents are all buried there. It's sort of a
Wow.
family area. So, and we wanted it to be easy for this to happen and have everything set up and paid for. We didn't have to have somebody make the decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the one that I'm not sure if it was Jeff Priest came up with. He wants on his tombstone or whoever it was the quote, what could go wrong? You know, it's like what I think every time I call a square dance. What could go wrong here?
But I remember using some of the words I use sometimes when something happened on square dancing. But holy cow!
Yeah. Uh, that's good. Let's see. Another question. Oh yeah, kids. Have you got any kids?
We do not.
No.
Um,
Okay.
uh, we would have, if it had happened, we would have figured a way to make it work,
Hmm.
but we're pretty much on the road a lot.
Yeah.
Um, we did have a Swedish boy stay with us for a year in Canada and the United States, and I've stayed with him many times and got to know his family and that, and he's 25 years younger than I am,
Wow.
and we've got to know his family, and if I had a son, that would be him.
Ah, that's pretty good. I think probably. Oh yeah, if you could have a superpower, what would that superpower be?
Uh, a being able to having a photographic mind,
Ah,
because there's a couple of callers that really do, and there's times that sure would be come in handy when you're calling.
wouldn't it? Yes, you could read a book of dances and then just say, okay, page 6, paragraph 3.
Yeah.
Bam. Yeah, that'd be great. If you could hold on to one memory forever from your life, what would that memory be?
Well, I would say that it would be the memory that I'm still holding on to every day is my wife
Hmm.
and the life we've had together.
Hmm. That's that's a good one. Okay. If you could have coffee with any famous person from the past, future, present, or whatever, do you have someone that you would like to pro probe their mind with?
Yes, probably when I was younger, Johnny Cash was my hero, but I've always been an Elvis fan.
Oh,
So to because they both had something that was as an entertainer, it wasn't learned, it was done, and that really interests me when I watch people and how they call, how they entertain. You've got to understand yourself and to be able to um, understand how you're coming across to people. I've always really worked hard at that. So those would be two I would like to have coffee with.
okay. Yeah, I kind of I go on YouTube a lot of times and look up these people and you get their history where how they came up through their professions. Very interesting. Again, it's perseverance, being in the right place at the right time. Just go after just do what you're doing. Okay. Let's open it up to our audience here. Um, let's start with Mike Gormley. Mike, you had a question for Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi, Mike.
Um, I'm a caller down here in Central Florida. Um, you were a caller coach or something, was that right? You're at one
Yes,
time, or
yes.
still are, or what?
Well, being that I've retired, they don't really give you a lifetime membership. But
Oh,
once you've been a collar coach and done as many schools as I've done over the years, I could still say I am.
okay. I was just wondering if you still do some training sessions.
Have not since I retired.
Okay.
I one of the younger callers up in Alberta that I've helped. I took over doing the one up here. I helped him go through the book again, the stuff to do, but he does it all, and I did not even attend this year.
Yeah. You live where? Washington?
Oh, Alberta.
Alberta. Okay.
Near me, Mike.
Oh, okay. I wasn't real sure. He's been in Texas. He's been in,
Yeah.
he mentioned all these different states and stuff.
Well,
Anyway, if you ever get down to Florida, and you're interested in a 1 day or maybe even a 3 day type, clinic or something, I'd like to talk to you.
I used to call in Florida off and on, but I'm not doing any collar schools or anything now. When I quit, I made it planned it ahead. We had a retirement weekend, and it was. I had made my mind up that I was not going to overstay being a caller and doing this as much as I like it, because I've seen too many guys that go down the tube, basically not as good as they had been, and I wanted to quit while I was on top.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. Anybody else? Anybody, you know, it can be a question. It can be. Jeez. Okay. Okay, Mary from Canada. Oh no, I mean that's Dave, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. Couldn't resist.
Hey, Dave.
Okay, Jerry.
Yeah.
Hey, Jerry. Okay, like you're probably the second best known caller in Canada for all your years. Unfortunately, there's a guy above you that is so well known across this country. No, I'm just kidding. But listen, I got to ask you the question. I've heard an awful lot about you calling in the States and Yuma and wherever you've called. But what is your best memory, honestly, of calling in Canada?
The best memory probably would be that the national convention, very first time it was in Edmonton, I ended it with Murray Few. He did the last tip when they had whatever number of squares. And then when it was back in Edmonton again, we ended it again that year that it was there. And that was the first one especially was really good because I was young and that was experience to see all those dancers. Other than that, I remember Penticton was another big one. My sister called with me for quite a few years, and we always went out there and we danced with all the kids from all over, and it was Alberta teens were there. And I remember so much growing up with those kids. And we've got a group out here that were from some of the square dance clubs in Alberta that still we get together and it's been years. I mean, it was my and it was such a good time. They never ever had a callback at Penticton, and we did the ending just before half, and the people would not get off the floor. They were stomping, and we finally had to leave the stage because they do not have callbacks. So that was an experience when I was really young too. That was a good one.
Yeah.
And
yeah, well, Penticton was always huge, back in the day.
And T&D, I did that a few too, and I enjoyed that area. And the weekends that Don Mosier had over in where was that? No, outside of Toronto, Montreal area. Yeah, those were. Yeah. I did a weekend in Northwest Territories in a town called Pine Point when I was young, and Pine Point is not a town anymore. The only thing left of it is the runway. It was paved, and that's the only thing left. They tore that town down. And being there, I was fairly young, and those people come in from all those northern little places. Man, they are partying. They want you to go to bed.
Yeah, but I remember you did the international T&D convention in Hamilton. You were probably one of the best known callers there. You're calling in front of probably, I don't remember in those days, it was between 3,500 and 5,000 dancers.
Yeah.
And you're getting up in front of this group that's, you're getting up in front of this group that's this like, I don't know, 2,000 dancers on the floor at once. Doesn't it make you nervous?
Really, there's a nervousness when I would go into any place. The first tip is I would think about it a little, but I pretty much know what I would do to get my first thing is to make sure that we get some success and that they would learn to listen to me and I could come across. And that was always something I did everywhere. To get their attention, I would do something that nobody else would do. And I would start with a figure that nobody else would call. But it was so simple that they could do it. And they would, and it would get their attention immediately. And I don't trick dancers, but I do make them listen.
Okay. As a caller myself, I'm very big on success on the floor. Like, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter what you do, it's success on the floor. And is that what you work to?
Yes, in my way.
Yeah.
I was not an easy caller. I've been said that I was a hard caller, but I was fair. And that was what I always tried to get across. I've had dancers come to me and say that I was too hard. And especially when we got the level system. And it really wasn't that I was hard. That the dancers moved on too fast to another level, haven't learned it. And but I understand that everybody is not going to like what I do, but the majority will.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Anybody else got a question or a anecdote of any sort?
Yeah, I got a follow up on the last conversation. Jerry, when you said that you don't do anything difficult but different, could you give us one or two examples so I can put it in my book?
Well, from a starting position, I say, all right, girls, star right. Back by the left. Turn your partner right. Find your corner, element left. And I don't think that many callers would ever do that, start a tip like that. And it would be other things that are basically simple, but not expected to do it. I hated to do the same thing every time, and that's what I wanted to. I think of different things every time that were easy, but were different. I probably had strips of those for years when I was doing callers.
Yeah, a couple nights ago, I was calling a dance. It just came out of my mouth. I had 8-chain through, and I said, well, in the flow or whatever, I had them veer left. Everybody veer right, centers veer right, outside's partner trade, centers veer left, and they stumbled on that because I gave it to them real quick, It,
Yep.
it just kind of spilled out. I wasn't even planning on it, but it was there, and they what? But yeah,
The body flow was a very important to me, and hand availability, and I worked hard on that. And sometimes that for dancers is tough until they trust you, because there's so many callers are not they're not really into the flow of the movement, or which hand is available, which shoulder is available. And I was really, pretty cautious on that, and made it so that it felt good, but it's different. I did start a group up a few years before I quit, and it was called. I did a whole weekend on it, called Super Main, and it built up, and I said right on there, this is not for mainstream dance. And I said, I want the advanced dancers to come and learn to dance. Basically it. And it was a weekend that built up, and I had I think 10 square did that, and it was, the people liked it.
Okay, I have one more question.
Okay.
Okay, so you have retired from calling,
Yes.
which a lot of us are heading to in the next, well, Joe, you're probably a year away. I myself am probably 30
Yeah.
years away.
Yeah, right.
But what? Anyway, did you feel you ever let the dancers down by retiring? Because I mean, I know there are people that have danced to you for years, and once you left, did they leave?
I don't think the pandemic fixed all that. I know that had we not had the pandemic and left things the way it was, I think I would have felt that more. I think that I would have been pressured into asking them to call it a tip or something. Fortunately, I did not have that pressure because we weren't even around people for so long. And it wasn't like I just quit. I announced over a year ahead when I was quitting, and it was my whole reasoning was I wanted to quit while I was at the top of my game, and the time happened to work out perfect for that with the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. It's just scary to me that when I'm going to retire, that there's nobody out there to fill in the gaps. If you know what I mean. I call for 3 clubs, and I'm just scared that when I finally retire, which, like I said, it's probably another 50 years from now. But no, I'm just scared that who's there to take over.
Well, that's why you have to work with the newer callers. I understand, Dave, you're working with a guy called Nathan.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring him along a little bit.
Yeah.
You
So,
know, like my whole thing is that I think mentoring is just as important as the callers course, if you know what I mean. Like, if you go on a weekend callers course, great, fantastic. Do your weekends callers course, but after that, you need some mentoring along the way.
yeah.
And I just feel that Nathan could do with some mentoring along the way.
Yeah, we had a good thing going there in Ontario for a while with my callers schools and whatnot, where the different dancers associations were really, I thought, generous in sponsoring dances where the new callers could get a chance to call. So they got a chance to call uh, basically twice a month at least. And then, of course, I would mentor anybody that was interested. But by mentoring, that meant they had to come to a class on a regular basis, take notes, assume some responsibility for teaching and calling a tip, uh, and progress through the season to the point where we shared pretty much half a dance. But you're
Well,
right.
honestly, Joe, honestly, that's so important. But unfortunately, since you've left, we've kind of lost that here.
No, that's too bad. I know there are some callers that uh, do run some schools, but um, like you say, the mentoring. I mean, after you've gone to a caller school or one or two, it's it's time to get the mic, get dancers.
Yeah, to get out,
Yeah,
yeah, to get out there and do it, you
like
know,
like I
and
moved out
that's
here
the
to
thing, and
Cochrane.
that's what,
Yeah, I moved
yeah,
out here
and
to
that's what
go ahead.
that that's what we're sorely missing out here is the mentoring program.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, like when you were here, you would bring these guys along, but you would also take them beyond the college school and help them along the way, and that's what we're missing here right now is any type of mentoring program, and
yeah,
I really wish we could get more into that. But anyway,
yeah.
that's
Um,
a subject a
that's
subject for
that's
another day.
that is. And by the way, I do have this mental telepathy sort of a thing going on in my head right now, Dave. I have a feeling that you are sitting in a green chair, a lazy boy. Am I right?
Oh, you are such an ass. Okay, I got to tell you folks, this is a chair that Mary, my wife, bought off Joe because she thought I'd like it, and it's a lazy boy, and it's a fantastic chair, and I've slept in this many nights when we're fighting. No, but anyway, I've slept in this chair many nights, but this is a chair that my wife bought off Joe for a very expensive price. Like I think she paid over $1,000 for it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh, Lordy. Yeah. That's the thing, Jerry. Jerry has probably as equally many stories of things happening that it just cements friendships around the world. And as far as I'm concerned, the Zoom has it's given me a second shot at uh, a career that's almost over 60 years now. Um, Jerry mentioned calling up in Skagway. I called last night in Fairbanks, and boy, are my arms tired. No, that's
yeah.
I call for a club up there.
I
That
just I just uh,
go ahead.
I just want you to know that Jerry, I really really enjoyed your interview today. It was fantastic.
Thank you. I was a couple things here. Uh, Over the years, I recorded 33 singing calls for 5 different labels. I think it was 5 I worked for. And I never paid for worked for them. I didn't get paid for doing it, and I didn't make any money on it. But it was a promotion of me, and I worked hard to do it. during all of my time. When people started dancing to, first of all, to cassette, and later on it was CDs. I would tape my dances, record my dances every year, and I'd have one available. And it was to sell to places and to people to either to listen to at home or to places that didn't have a caller anymore. There's a lot of that around. Even up until a year ago, I was still selling CDs that I had produced back in 2000. So that was an interesting thing. But there was a thing what you made me think about. I was calling in Denmark. I was always late between the two halls. So the present they give me at the end of the dance was a pink alarm clock.
Yeah.
I mean, a big one like this, but big.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
And, so I thanked them and tried to get rid of it. And the next week I was calling in Germany, and they handed me a present at the same pink alarm clock.
Oh, jeez.
And I said, "Well, we got to get rid of it." So I put it in somebody's bag as they were leaving. The next night it showed up again, and then it got a book with it, and people were taking pictures of it. Pretty soon, I was getting it. So it even came back to Canada, came back to the United States, go back to the very last Danish convention I did just before I retired. They come in with this big box. I mean, a big box. And when I dug all the stuff out of it, that was that same pink alarm clock. It's got to be the it. And funny, I would go to, they give me a little one like I just showed you. And they made a rule that if I didn't have the little pink alarm clock with me when I got the big one, I had to buy everybody a drink. Well, I carried that little pink alarm clock with me, very cautious. And then they handed me a present. This is what it was.
Oh,
It's
gee.
alarm clock from Switzerland. And I said, so what is this for? He says, well, we heard you were collecting alarm clocks. And this went on for quite a few. It built into a story, you know, and it was all in innocence when we started.
Well, if I would have thought that came from Hannah and Lars. If you notice in their video there, they have cows in their house.
Oh, I know. I've stayed there many times.
Yeah.
I think that they were on that, passing that alarm clock along quite a few times over the years.
Oh, yeah. No, those are the funny things. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you've never been to Hannah's place, Hannah and Lars, they have a bathroom door that has famous caller signatures on it.
Oh. Well, I know we were doing. I don't know if it was the interview. I did an interview with Hannah and Lars, and Brian Hotchkiss was staying there, and he runs through the kitchen naked, and he's like, well, I think he had something on, but you couldn't tell.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to take a shower. So yeah, funny things that happen. Someday perhaps I can put a snippet together of some of the crazy things that we've done on the interviews, because it's fun. Anyhow, it's been great having you on here, Jerry. I do remember, I think, calling on the festival in Toronto or Hamilton when you were on. Did you call it the one when it was in maybe London, Ontario?
No, I don't think it was. Well, I don't remember. I did 2 or 3 of them over there. One was a long, long time ago, and then I did one of them where we all think something. That we had to go out and buy a pink tie.
Oh. Well, it's too bad that you retired just a bit too soon, because we've got the National Canadian Festival here in Calgary this summer. If you were to stop in, I'm sure if you're around, you'd be visiting with a lot of the folks you know. Murray Few will be there, Gary Winter, Gary Smith, who's a younger caller than the rest of us. Not young, but younger. Okay.
Oh,
And some guy named Dave.
And Dave will be there. Yeah.
Yeah. Some guy named Dave. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we keep
There are
keep
two
people busy.
Daves calling. Davino's calling too, isn't he?
Davino, yeah, and they're even calling.
Davino will be there. Yep.
They're calling
Dave.
together. One of the specialties is the
Okay.
last night we're doing the great debate.
Mhm.
People from Australia would know that one, but I can't divulge much more about that other than we debate some serious, yeah, right, serious questions
Really,
about square dancing. Yeah.
really looking forward to that, Joe.
Yeah.
But can I just say to Jerry before he goes?
Yeah.
Thank you so much thank you so much for all your years, Jerry, because you have been an inspiration to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay, well, thanks, folks, for joining in and helping, divulge some of Jerry's secrets, making him divulge them himself. That's always a good thing. So thanks, folks, for joining in. Thanks, Jerry, for submitting to the hot seat. And hopefully we'll see you around the square somewhere, somehow, just by accident even. Okay?
All right.
And just as a